Let's take a look at the current odds for the Heisman after a chaotic weekend of upsets in Week 6. The top two favorites are both non-quarterbacks. You got Ashton Jeanty of Boise State. He's the favorite, plus 220. Travis Hunter of Colorado, plus 320. And it goes on from there. Time now to welcome in host of the Cover 3 podcast, Chip Patterson, to help weigh in on the risers and the fallers in the Heisman race. Chip, thanks for joining us today. Let's start with some risers, right? Let's start with some positivity here. Ashton Jeanty has absolutely skyrocketed. Jeanty is averaging over 10 yards per carry, has rushed for over 1,000 yards over the first 5 games. Talk to me about this absolute meteoric rise to the top of the odds board.
Yeah, it is not often in the modern game that we get to see a running back be at the very top of the sport, then return to college football, and then not only continue to be at the top of the sport among running backs, but then jump to the top of the conversation for the most outstanding player in all of college football. And that's what Ashton Jeanty has done, because the thing that he does is not only the home runs, right? He rips off these long runs of 40, 50, 60 yards seemingly every single game, but he also gets a lot of the hard yards. He gets the short yardage situations, the goal to go situations. That's why his touchdown total is absolutely out of this world as well. And when we start to think about the idea that being a 1,000-yard rusher is something that a lot of players would like to do in a season, and he's done it in 5 games, now, Katie, we start to talk about history, because what he's going to start eyeing are some of the most prolific single-season performances in college football history. We're talking Melvin Gordon, Barry Sanders,
wow.
You know, those 26, 27, 2,800 yards, all of that is on the table as long as he continues. I mean, he maintained his pace for a historic season and didn't even have to play for the last several possessions against Utah State. So as Boise State remains very much in the mix for the college football playoff, Ashton Jeanty, as he chases history, will remain at the very top of the Heisman Trophy conversation as well.
You talk about Melvin Gordon and Barry Sanders. Looking at those clips, though, with the stiff arm, he looks like Derrick Henry. I mean, he looks like an absolute force that you're not going to be able to stop. Let's look at another riser here, Cam Ward. Ward has CFB fans a little torn on him, right, on his Heisman race here amid number 8 Miami's epic comeback versus Cal. The game was a complete roller coaster, as was his performance. He ended up, though, with 437 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 15 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. But again, it wasn't without his mistakes. What's your take on Cam Ward?
He giveth and he taketh away. I mean, this is going to be a player who's just going to be an absolute roller coaster, I think, the rest of the season. If you're a Miami fan, then I think that what you want to do is you want to reach out to the Washington State fans who hopefully will tell you it will be worth it in the end. But Cam Ward is who he is. I mean, his career goes all the way back to being at the FCS level at Incarnate Word, another time when he was incredibly prolific and dynamic as a playmaker at the position. It's continued with 2 years at Washington State, and now here at Miami, it is just the ride that you have signed up for. So in terms of his Heisman, I think that the fact that the turnovers have popped back up again is not a great sign for him to being able to win the award, especially if those turnovers keep creating situations where he's got to go bail them out. But oh boy, Heisman voters love some heroics, and that is exactly what Cam Ward showed in the comeback win against Cal. There are a couple of games left that are going to be huge for Miami in terms of Cam Ward being able to solidify his chances to actually go and win the award, among them playing against Louisville after the week off. So this is going to be a spot for Cam Ward where you hope he tightens it up. You hope he limits the turnovers. But from someone on the outside looking in, I just kind of think that's what you're going to get. The question is that going to be good enough to win the Heisman Trophy? I think too many turnovers would be something that could have him, still being able to be a finalist, but maybe not win the award, especially with so many other great candidates.
Right now he's priced at plus 450 as well. So those are some positives, Chips. Now let's look at some, I don't want to say negative, maybe we'll just call them fallers here, right? Jalen Milroe held the top spot in the odds after Bama's win over Georgia last week. However, was his short-lived Heisman campaign completely torched after losing to Vanderbilt?
It was not. There are other opportunities for Alabama and other opportunities for Jalen Milroe to be able to go out there and absolutely fill it up. Now, don't get it twisted. He needs to go beat Tennessee. He needs to beat LSU. And he needs to be the star in all of these games. But, Katie, this is an interesting part of the conversation. One of the things that I am most concerned about with Alabama as a football team is something that would allow Jalen Milroe to keep having tremendous performances, because I think Alabama's defense is just so far off from what we have come to expect from the Crimson Tide that there are going to be other teams like a Tennessee, like an LSU, that are going to force Jalen Milroe to go out there and continue to be aggressive, continue to try to hit big plays and put up a whole bunch of points. I mean, this is an Alabama offense that really did enough to win against Vanderbilt, but the defense could not get off the field, allowing the Commodores third down conversion after third down conversion, even some fourth down conversions as well, leading to touchdowns. So for Jalen Milroe, I would say that if you like it, maybe it's a buy the dip situation, because there are big stage opportunities left. Alabama could still make the SEC championship game. And if they did, you got to think that Jalen Milroe has been a big part of it. So yeah, he definitely hurt his Heisman campaign, but Jalen Milroe as an individual wasn't the reason why Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. I'd put far more of the blame on the defense there.
Yeah, well, if you want to buy low on him, his odds currently 10-1 plus 1,000. But to your point, the defense will probably make that quite hard on him. Let's move on here to Quinn Ewers from Texas. Look, despite missing 2 games due to that abdominal injury, Ewers is trending up here. He is supposed to make his start against number 18 Oklahoma. Currently with the 8th best odds to win the Heisman, can he make up for lost time?
I think he can, because those games that he missed, while we all got to love our Arch Manning, SEO loves Arch Manning. We also understand that those games were not pivotal games to Texas's season. This is a Longhorns team that was and now has reassumed the number one spot in the AP Top 25 poll. This is a Texas team that, after making the college football playoff a year ago, is trying to go and win a national championship in 2024. And the games that will determine whether Texas can win the SEC, whether Texas is going to be competing for a national championship, those games either A, already happened when Quinn Ewers was excellent against Michigan's defense early in the season, or are going to happen, like against Oklahoma coming up here in week 7, like that game against the Georgia Bulldogs 1 week later on October 19th. Texas A&M at the end of the season especially now looks interesting, given where the Aggies are after beating Mizzou. The games that Heisman voters would latch on to are the games that still remain on the schedule. So I think Quinn Ewers still has every opportunity to be able to go out there and win. And by missing time, might actually have a little advantage, because he won't get the same statistical comparisons to some of the other quarterbacks. It'll be about big moments in big games. And if Quinn Ewers has them and Texas does the unprecedented and wins the SEC in its first year of being in the SEC, that would go a long way with Heisman voters.
Oh man, well, you might as well get it while it's hot. 2-1 plus 2,000 for him to win this one. Seems like you're pretty high in terms of who's up and who's down. Lastly, let's talk about Dillon Gabriel of the Oregon Ducks. Chip, Gabriel struggled early, right, last week with a couple of interceptions versus Michigan State. Still, the Ducks are undefeated, and they now enter their biggest game of the regular season versus Ohio State. Chip, the Ducks are still 4-point dogs at home in this game. Would a win this week solidify Gabriel's Heisman campaign?
It'd do a lot. It would get you about halfway there, because to me, when I'm looking at Dillon Gabriel, there is going to be some like quarterback of the best team that could play out, but there's also some history. And this is why I think his Heisman chances are in a way kind of tied to the Ashton Jeanty story, where, you know, Jeanty is chasing those single season records. Well, for Dillon Gabriel, who started his career, I don't know, 15 years ago at UCF, went to Oklahoma, now is at Oregon, he is chasing down the NCAA all-time passing records, passing yards, passing touchdowns, total offense. All of these are within Dillon Gabriel's reach if he goes out and has, you know, what has been about his career average. And so that's where I think Dillon Gabriel's Heisman candidacy that really hinges on. Like, He does need to beat Ohio State. He does need to play really well against Michigan later in the season. Those are all very important. But when a Heisman voter is looking at that ballot, if Gabriel has those wins, but also all the pomp and circumstance that would surround writing his name at #1 on those NCAA all-time record books, then I think that could be just enough to help him win what looks like a very, very tight race.
Chip Patterson, as always, thanks for joining us, talking through some of these Heisman risers and fallers. We appreciate it. And if you want more from Chip, which of course you do, make sure you tune into the Cover 3 podcast. The crew takes you from National Signing Day all the way to the National Championship. You could watch now by scanning the QR code on your screen or listen wherever you get your podcasts.